Hey, everybody. It's us with the It's a Pandemic live stream show from the Planet Ant Training Center. You're with myself, Andy Reid, and our special guest, sandwiched right in the middle of us, two lovely men. It's Margaret Edwardowski.
I thought you were going to say a lovely woman, but
I don't
cool,
know why
whatever.
I went that direction, but that's the magic of improv, Margaret, as you well know.
The worst introduction you've ever given.
It really
Maybe,
is.
it might be, but that's because we have the best guest that we've ever had.
You're intimidated, so you botched the intro.
Exactly.
Is it?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I was a little concerned. Oh, I forgot to send you guys the chat link, by the way, but I will do that for you right now, so you can see who's chatting us. Because we're streaming on Twitch, we're streaming on Facebook, we're streaming on all the different sources out there. And I'm going to send you guys the chat link here in your FB there, so you can see anybody that's chatting us.
Me and Andy?
Yeah, for you and Andy.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a separate
So, yeah.
tab, so it'll open up in another window there.
We've had some great success with this stream. We open it up Saturday at 5 p.m. Every week, and people come and they've been asking us questions about improv philosophy, things they've been thinking about performance-wise, anything at all, really. And we've had some really insightful conversations about performance on here. So,
Yeah, some great
happy to have you.
questions and interactions from you guys. It's been really cool, for sure.
So it'll say Restream Chat. Is that it? Yeah.
Restream, yep. Restream dot or Restream.io chat, yeah.
Okay. Well, lots of activity.
Yeah, it'll be slow at first, don't worry.
I don't care. I'm learning a lot today. I'm not a boomer, but I'm at the crest of Gen X.
Thank God
so
you're not a boomer, because I would have just cut ties with you immediately.
I wouldn't be here if I was a boomer.
That's true. That's true.
Margaret, have you been doing any streaming shows at all?
I've done some recordings for the Improv Project with some of the teaching staff and then the Planet Ant people, and then, I don't know if this is talking out of school, but Nancy Hayden and I did one last week. But
Okay, great.
I haven't done anything live. This is my inaugural voyage. I was going to say popping my cherry, but sandwiched
Gross.
between two such attractive men, it would sound sordid. So
It would be
I
super
decided not
inappropriate.
to.
You
Yeah.
said that.
Well,
So we
and
actually
just so the
did.
audience knows, I just want everyone to know that Margaret has a lot of books behind her on the screen that you can't see. That's
Yeah.
and a piano,
And a
because we're
piano.
cultured.
She's very cultured.
Yes.
So we actually did. We've been filming some game videos and stuff for DCP. We actually did host our first live class this week with some high school kids from Western International.
Cool.
So yeah, how did it go?
There have been some going on with Hamtramck High School too.
Yeah.
Lauren's been doing those.
But if it has to be a guy the first time officially, I understand.
Oh my God, this stream is taking a real turn.
Yeah,
You know I'm an angry woman.
That's
Margaret,
right.
I would
Lauren's
like
been
to
doing
offer
them.
you complete ownership of this show. I would like to give
Okay.
it to you. You can now be the host every week.
Okay.
It's
Okay,
yours.
cool.
I think it's better that it's your voice. Andy and I are fine to step aside.
Yeah.
It is in reverse order because usually I start stuff and then hand it off to guys. So it's nice to have it the other way around.
Yeah.
You are so
Yeah.
welcome.
Well, that sounds so bitter.
You really do. It's okay. The truth comes out in pandemics. That's what they always said, right?
It really does. I've
Yeah.
been trapped with a 6-year-old kid and
Oh yeah.
40-something guy
guys
who's like a 12-year-old kid. So
So every week we've kind of been talking about one of the main things is what people are thinking of a lot of these different live stream shows that we've been doing, having the audience chime in about that sort of thing, just what they think like the successes of these shows or failures of these shows are, or what the challenges are to make them work, because so much of our lives were dedicated to performance and writing and instruction and live comedy and being in theaters and being in small spaces with many people. So, making this transition is a very strange and new world for all of us. Especially having to compete with these mainstream big names that have garnered fame from Hollywood, and they just turn on their computer and they'll get 50,000 views. Whereas we have to struggle to get just to get out into the world.
It's kind of the Funny or Die thing, or like some of the early crowdfunding stuff where it was like, wow, these are really for people that are grassroots. Oh shit, the celebrities are here.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, Will Ferrell showed up. Okay, bye.
Right,
Exactly.
right.
Yeah.
Zach Braff wants to make a movie. Well, we'll give him our money then. That's cool.
His was kind of it wasn't his like a super weird. Didn't he get like backlash for his? I thought
Probably.
like, he did a thing that like he
Did he
showed
ever
up
make it?
I don't know. I don't think he ever did. And this was after his Garden State day, like is all of that stuff. And he like tried to get crowdfunding for a film. But it's like, when you're Zach Braff, why do you need crowdfunding?
Because he probably got annoyed with the pitches and nobody wanted to make it because he like probably was making himself this indie guy now and he wanted to do weird stuff, and the studios were like, you're the Scrubs guy.
Right.
Oh, they'll get it from GoFundMe then.
I like the idea of Zach Braff leaving a pitch meeting in a huff. Like, okay, I guess you're not going to let me make the movie you think I'm shitty.
Well, if you don't like brilliance, I guess I'll go to GoFundMe then. There is that thing, though, as an artist, though, like when you have something that you think is really great and you super believe in it. And I feel like this is just kind of the thing about, believing in yourself and being an artist is like, at what point do you step outside and be like, maybe, or you constantly think maybe it is shit, but like, where is the truth and who's the arbiter of that? And I don't know, I'm getting super deep, but
no, it's true.
Like, I think it's amazing. Yeah. Everyone will like it.
It's a fine balance because, like, I've been in a couple show processes where I've gotten close to opening. I'm like, I don't know if this one's good. Like it's a hard.
And then you find out on opening. Or really the night after.
Right. But yeah, it's a hard thing to admit to yourself that you've put that much time and effort into something that might not be good.
And let me tell you, when you like if you in playwriting or sketch writing, when I've opened a show that isn't good, and then you either have to, if you're in it, you have to run that out, or if you wrote it, you have to go watch that dog and claim it. That's real bad. But it's a learning experience of like, I don't want to feel that again, but still.
Yeah. But I mean,
I've been in that place with the, you guys know I write these romance novels, and I've been in that place because I'm still trying to get an agent. Like, is this, because it's not like being on stage and people laugh or don't. It's like me alone with some stuff that I wrote, sending it to people who read that stuff all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like, is it crap or good? I don't even know anymore,
It's kind of weird because I think that there's two different levels to that. I think that there's a level of kind of what the mainstream narrative of acceptance is for the type of thing that you're trying to do. That's one. So that's like one thing. It's like, oh, I'm writing a romance novel. Well, it's got to kind of be like all the other romance novels in a way, or else people won't get it context-wise.
But also individual enough to sell.
Yes, absolutely.
Right.
And then there's the other level where it is like, is this a skillfully done thing? You know what I mean? And I think that people can fail on either side of that in occasion, and have something, and I think most of the time it's a failure more on the side of the skill side, which I'm grouping in with the artistic side as well, I guess. But how many bad movies are out there? How many horrible television shows are out there? There's a lot.
That's what I'm saying. Well, and also I think there's something that I've been really aware of lately, which is watching when the shift in your genre happens, where I feel like now there is a new sensibility, comedic sensibility that isn't my generation anymore. Well, it's not new to the people who are doing it, but it's new to me. You know, and I joke about it. There's a few guys on our scene that do these tweets that I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? And then, you know, Mel Brooks probably felt this in the, you know, 80s, but every generation probably thinks that of, you know, the people 20 years younger than them. But, you know, these guys, the one I called out the other, for two different guys, was like, they keep doing these tweets about my wife this and my son that, and I'm like, you're a single guy. What are you talking about? It's a character. Well, I don't know that. What?
Name
like,
names.
Again. And I'm like, you're lying. It's a character. But
is it Borat?
Yeah. You're supposed to.
You're not doing a voice. You're just typing a sentence. My wife said this to me. I'm like, bitch, you don't have a wife? What are you talking about? I had to ask one of them, do you have a wife? He's like, no, who would marry me? I'm like, exactly. Stop lying on Twitter. You don't get it. No, I don't. I like funny things.
We got a comment from Victor chiming in.
Oh,
hello, Victor.
Hi, Victor.
What are the origins of the snooty patrician
Patrician?
voice?
It's like white on white. The text, I mean.
Oh, that's a weird thing. Oh, I think it's supposed to be embedded.
Oh, there it is. What are the origins of the snooty patrician voice? Would you consider that go-to? Distinguishes a go-to. Is you talking about me with the snooty patrician voice?
Maybe? I don't know.
Man, I tell you, that, like, Victor just barreling right to form right away.
Hell yeah.
Like,
What?
Hell yeah. I wouldn't have it any other way,
like
Victor.
a Victor
I guess I
question.
need a little context. Like,
Yeah, I think we need a little
Like a
more
Victor
context
question.
to that.
Just
snooty
cut,
patrician
like,
voice in improv or romance writing or...
Well, I don't know. I mean, I think that maybe, you know, what is a go-to? What is the difference? What is the difference between a go-to and a crutch? Is an interesting concept, though. What are the two things that can distinguish something that's a go-to thing or something that's a crutch? And I guess to me the difference is that if you're relying on it too heavily and you're a little lazy with it, if it feels cheap, then it's a crutch. But at the same time, that could be something that you have to use for certain shows, depending on the audience. I don't know.
Well, like if you have the opportunity to be either in an ensemble or a troupe with somebody for a long time, you definitely know the difference between those two things. Because it's one of those, like, if the right opportunity comes up for something that's a good go-to, you'll be like, oh, I can't wait for Mike to do that white privilege character. I'm just thinking something we've done together a bunch of, like, you know what I mean? Or like, oh, this is a great window. Oh, do it, dude. You know, where like your troop mates would be rooting for you because this is the time.
Yes.
But I feel like a crutch is like that guy you're in a troop with. You're like, oh God, he's gonna do that again, right? And it's really kind of like when you're a peer, it looks kind of pandery or, you know, cheap because it's like, you know, oh, the drunk party guy, fair estate, or whatever the thing is that, you know, you go to that's like, you'll get a laugh, but it feels like you need a shower after.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
That's the grossest. I
think-
just hate that. That feeling.
I think every single improviser has a back pocket of characters that they know they can do well and that they know that they can form fit into specific types of scenes and they're comfortable playing. The challenge as a performer is to identify those and realize how often you're pulling them out and how often you're like purposefully switching it up and making different choices to kind of round out your skill set.
Yeah, and also to make sure that those choices are not like stolen from pop culture too. Like, I mean, there's some people that I've performed with that's like, oh, I'm gonna do Ace Ventura now, and I'm like, Jesus, no, stop.
I was literally just about to do a bit like, okay, are you talking about me doing Ace Ventura on stage too much?
Do you do that?
No.
I would not. No, you do not. I'm not gonna name the person for sake of, you know, whatever. But
If somebody who does Ace a bunch though?
Well, not a bunch. I mean, it's just
similar.
It was a time period. It was a time that happened. That it happened,
I'm not trying to, bust
We could all
No,
say
I
it.
get
Sean,
it, yeah.
every single show, Sean McGettigan talks out of his butt like Ace Ventura.
I would say Sean is an example. He's got a great go-to in his sort of hodgepodge European Scandinavian character.
Yeah, totally.
One of my favorite Sean characters is his kind of like Gomer Pyle.
Oh yeah,
he's
the dumb guy kind of.
He's got a great like Gomer Pyle kind of lilty voice that he'll bust out in like a hillbilly scene.
Oh, yeah,
he does that.
I know what you're talking about.
I know who you mean.
Yeah. Man, I miss money.
I didn't realize because he was in one of the recordings I did for the improv project, and afterward I told Kelly Rossi, who works on it, I was like, yeah, and this was the setup, and Rico did this, and Sean and I played a couple, and she was like, of course you did. I'm like, what are you talking about? She's like, you and Sean always play couples. I was like, we do.
Yeah.
We sure do.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
I get it. Sean's just a dreamboat.
Yes.
Yeah. What a
I'll
fun
tell you
Had to
what,
deal
we
with my
did
whole life.
one steamy scene that was like, I don't know, it was like the game of the scene was we were wanting to do it, but there was so many other things we had to get done first or something. Like there was something, but it was definitely like by the end of the time that scene was over, it was gonna be
yeah.
Dreamboat.
That dreamboat power.
Is that tough to be in a family with a dreamboat? Do you feel like overshadowed by the?
I mean, and luckily I'm pretty attractive too, so I don't.
Yeah, he's one of these two attractive boys.
True.
Luckily.
Tough being in a family with a dreamboat and a wizard.
I know. In me, I'm just caught in between. I'm kind of like just a dreamy wizard, like a kind of.
Yeah.
Victor says the character that you, Margaret, use in almost every improv show. Is what he's talking about?
Okay. Well, it's probably a British,
I think I know what he's talking about too. Yeah, like I mean, you're really good at that, and I don't, consider that a crutch, as just a go-to as an example of what we're talking about.
Perhaps it is.
Perhaps.
Yeah, I mean, well, that is life of Anglophilia and finding the only place it's appropriate to actually do it. I probably told you this, but I got myself in trouble with that kind of behavior because my first year at Wayne State, when I went to Subway, I was like, young acting student. I was like, I'm going to speak in an accent. And then the ladies behind the counter made a huge deal about it and were calling me Robin Leach and stuff. And so I couldn't go back because I would have to keep doing that. And then so one time I really wanted Subway and I went and played it out again, like kept in character. But then somebody I knew came in and they were like, "Dude, why are you talking like that?" And I'm like,
Be calm.
I guess the answer is I don't know what you're talking about. This is how I always speak. No, all of it's going to sound terrible because I'm on the spot. But the point is, it's probably better to do it in an ant set than Subway.
Are you? Are there other accents that you like to bust out from here and there? And what are they?
I love dialects. And I don't do them as much as I used to because it feels like when you start off you do a lot of dialects and then you stop. But there's always room for a Scottish accent. My kid's starting to do one now because he's super into Scottish.
Does he watch Shrek?
He's watched Shrek. It's mostly from Brave. I've caught him doing the Highland Fling a lot. Like one hand over the head, He wants to learn to shoot arrows like Brave. There's a lot. And then he'll say Scotland.
Scotland.
Yeah, Dave Herbst and I used to do Scottish for days.
Oh, yeah.
I will do Irish. If Dave Davies is all right with the Irish, we'll do that from time to time.
I don't know why. I don't know what it is about an Irish accent that when you're trying to do it on stage can so quickly slip into Jamaican.
Oh,
Irish, like for some
I can
reason,
see that.
there's an Irish and Jamaican line that if you're trying to do an Irish accent on stage, it can easily start to sound like you're doing an awful Jamaican accent.
Well, it was a well-known fact at Second City. Sean Hanlon would admit, and I can't remember which direction it went, but his thing was always like, if I start French, I'll end up German, or vice versa. Like it was one or the other.
Yeah.
So he would come out, we have this, making you talk, and by the end he's like, oh, you know.
That is one thing I've always wished I was better at, but that I've also never put in any time to try to get better at.
I mean, that's the
Well, the thing that sucks is it's really tedious work if you do it like the legit way. Like if you're learning phonetic alphabet and stuff like that.
Like,
although YouTube.
The first time I ever did it for a full length production, it was like, whoa, it was crazy how your mouth kind of hurts. Like after doing it for an extended period of time, different dialects, you have to hold your mouth in a completely different way, and all those muscles inside are working in different ways than you're used to, and it is so completely different. I guess that's why British people, maybe their mouths are sore all the time. I don't know.
Yeah, that's why.
They're not super enunciators, though. I mean, I guess it depends on where you're from.
Yeah.
I really want to get Welsh down. I don't have a Welsh.
Yeah, get some Welsh down. There was
I
that
can do
little,
a passable,
was it
like
Little Britain sketch where it was like a Welsh crafting show.
The craft show.
Yes.
And what he went and
yes, exactly.
The Swan.
Yes.
I think it was that Mitchell and Webb look.
Oh yeah, I think it was Mitchell and Webb look.
And he just took a padlock and just turned the top, and that was the swan, like the base, and then the little neck,
to make a swan.
and then put it in like a thing with lily pads.
That's a great sketch show. I haven't seen that Mitchell and Webb look in a while, but
it is great.
There's something about that they have really solid sketches, and then you watch like number weighing, and you're like, what the fuck did I just watch? And then they do it again and again and again and again, and then by the end you're like, okay, there we go. I like it now.
And it gets to the number weighing prophecies, and it's like a Dan Brown thing. Oh, it's so funny.
Like, I can't believe this commitment to this stupid bit, and then it's just like completely. They're like, I've heard people talk about that before. Like Kristen Schaal and Kurt Brownholer have done performance before, and they had this bit where they did this like 30-second jingle that was it was about horses or something. It was stupid, and then they just kept doing it, and you hear the audience kind of like the energy suck out of the room, and then this titter breaks out, and it just uproarious laughter, and then they just dig in harder, and you watch it fall down again, and then it just explodes. It's a manic energy when you commit to something that stupid.
It's comedy math. Like at that point, it's like, yeah, as long as you're just going. I mean, that's one of those things that you can do, is just go for the thing as into the ground, beat it into the ground, and it becomes funny.
I've always thought those were like the hardest sketches to, first of all, identify that it has that function of comedy, right? Like that if you go back and do it again and again, that the audience isn't going to hate you, that they're actually going to eventually think it's funny. Those are really hard to identify, and they're also hard to craft. The one that comes to mind for me is the Monte Cristo scene from Second City Detroit with Kirk Hanley.
Oh, yes.
Where he just keeps dipping that damn sandwich in the jam or whatever.
He's just at a
having
restaurant.
A heart attack.
That's the whole sketch, is him sitting at a restaurant ordering the Monte Cristo sandwich, which was Monte Cristo's deep fried jelly, ham, turkey. Like, it's just a terrible for you type of, and
it's
ranch
literally the worst possible thing you could put in your body.
It's
really like a
bad.
ham and cheese multi-layered sandwich, battered and deep fried, that you dip in jam.
Oh, it's dipped in jam
or ranch.
Yeah. But anyways, his performance in that sketch was incredible, and it was just him having a heart attack and still wanting to eat that sandwich and going up and back for the sandwich, reaching for that sandwich as he's dying on the floor.
Yeah.
Oh man.
He and it's so subtle. Like he takes a bite and then he just kind of like his left hand is getting kind of numb, and then by the end, and then I think the reveal was that it was Cheney, right? That he was.
Oh, that's right. I forgot that reveal, but yeah, it was that he was Dick Cheney. Yeah.
Dick Cheney. I almost said Don Cheney.
Don.
Don Cheney.
Don Cheney.
Don Cheney.
The sketch that always comes to mind for me in that area is the mountain climber sketch from Mr. Show.
Oh yes.
The thimble
That's a
sketch.
Great example.
Oh god, it is so funny, and it's just the purest example of just like heightening game, because they get all the way to like him falling over thimbles at the premiere of it. Yeah, at the movie premiere of him telling the story. It's so funny.
The thing about that though is because I actually one of the parents at school, he and I realized we were both Mr. Show fans, and then it was like, whatever. It was like the play date before kindergarten starts, and all the kids are playing. We're like, okay, what about this one? And that was his favorite, and I had to be like, because that one to me didn't engage. Like I didn't get the like, do it again, do it again. I was like, oh, come on. But we did through John's friends, because they used to, on Mondays when we would improvise, he would have video game night with his buddies. And sometimes if I was there, like their joke sort of cycle was do it a bunch until you piss everyone off, and then do it more until it's funny again.
Yeah. Totally.
Which to me, I don't know if it's a woman thing, was like I would get to the like fiery hot anger point. And just be really, really done, and then it would actually get to the funny again part, and even that made me mad, because I was like, it's not supposed to be funny again.
But just hearing that story also makes me kind of feel like, I mean, there is a complete joy that I get from making somebody upset with a joke.
Yeah. Oh, sure. That's where you should leave it off, is get to the point where you make everybody mad and then cut it off.
And just be done there.
Don't even get to the funny again.
Boom.
Never get to when it's funny again. Just stop it.
Stop there.
I do think though, like, and I'm speaking for myself, but I do think that there is a gender difference in how that is received.
Oh, yeah.
You remember that documentary I still haven't made, I've talked about for years, of like, why do men love to pick on their girlfriends and wives so much, to the point of making them like viscerally mad.
Yeah.
Why do they cross that line? But then I also think about my relationship with all the doofuses on the home team who love to get under my skin, and it's the same thing, and it's not a romantic relationship.
Yeah.
It's just a griefing shit.
I mean, I remember I was probably like a 4-month run of Monday shows where Garrett's entire goal was to try to kiss you on stage, and everybody watching, knowing that was happening and knowing that it annoyed you. So I know exactly what you're talking about.
He put his tongue in my mouth so far. I literally was like looking at him differently after that one set, because I was like, I haven't been kissed like that in a really long time. Like we were both a little awkward around each other afterward, because like his bit blew up in his face.
Oh, that's fantastic.
I thought he was gonna like feel me up. It was intense.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's not the worst bit to have done on you, but there's worse. It's the stupid videos they always want to show.
No, there's
the
a whole
one and the Garth Brooks one, and
Oh yeah.
there's a whole
guy
genre.
at a buffalo.
Yep. On a buffalo.
There's like an entire genre of YouTube millionaires who made their money pulling rude pranks on their wives and girlfriends.
Is there
That's
really?
true.
Yeah,
That is
and there's
true.
like, they get like millions of views to like put baby powder in their wife's hairdresser or a hairdryer. That's the joke. Yeah.
But it is really interesting, the difference in like male female brains in general have differences to them, and then the difference in comedy and the approach to comedy is also super it's just very interesting how both male and female approach comedy in a little bit different ways, you know? And for a long time, people would say that women were like too uptight. You know, back in the old days, they would say that women were too uptight to do comedy because they didn't want to make themselves look bad or goofy or stupid. But that's shattered. That's done. Like, that myth is flown.
Get ugly.
Yeah.
Here's a thing to consider, because I think about this a lot as a woman.
I'm glad you said that, because I didn't know until you said that.
Think about it a lot. No, well, what initially sparked my interest in it, outside of, you know, some of the sitcom sort of traditions, was also that sort of breaches tradition in the theater of, like, how if a woman dresses as a man, it's a plot device, and if a man dresses as a woman, it's comedy.
Yeah, right.
And it's really about power structures, and not to, you know, dissertation this thing, but it's about power structures because, and I think this relates to why guys like to cut each other down, is if you're in the position of power, then humor comes from knocking you off that position.
Right.
And I think if you're a woman, you're not in the position of power, so being torn down or made to look stupid, you're like, fuck, I'm already on the bottom. Like, you know, I've been watching a lot of Handmaid's Tale lately, so you'll forgive me if I'm a little fired up, but I think that our humor is based from our perspective, where we're looking at it from.
Yeah, right. And the change in status, and the change that you come from, like, punching up to someone, whereas, you know, a lot of women traditionally, you can't punch up. I mean, you know, we're not talking Margaret Thatcher or anything like that, you know.
No. No, I mean, and if you make a Margaret Thatcher farting, you know, video, it would be funny because she's Margaret Thatcher.
Maybe we need to do that.
That's what we all.
This now is the window to do the accent that Victor was quoting on all this time. I said all of that just to do a dialect.
Yeah, there we go. We got there. Margaret, you mentioned your erotic novels. Have you been able to?
A whole other genre.
Have you been able to write during all of this?
Yeah, I have a couple of things that have been in the works. Right now, I'm writing a grant, so I haven't been writing a lot, but. Yeah, I'm like just a few pages away from finishing something new, and then about halfway through another piece that I've been working on. And I tend to jump back and forth between a lot of stuff. I have 5 finished books, and then about 2 or 3 that are like halfway done, and another couple that are like, come on, just get over the finish line. So. But all of them need probably some serious editing. What I'm really just trying to do is get an agent, and then you know.
Yeah, I'm always curious. I like to ask my creative friends because, like,
Have you been writing?
I haven't been. I was doing a lot like the first 2 or 3 weeks of this, and I just that part of my brain is kind of shut off. And some people are putting a lot of pressure on themselves to try to put creative stuff together. Some people are being successful at it. Like I'm in a position where I'm following my creative instincts as they come to me. I've done a couple like film sketches. I'm doing a couple live stream stuff, but I'm not trying to put any pressure on myself to write or have deadlines or anything like that. It's interesting to me. Everybody's kind of taking it differently.
Yeah.
And I'm personally like kind of in the same way. I'm like, I haven't really done much lately, and been kind of just like taking it easy a little bit more. I've definitely been wanting to do, and I'm still like, keeps something I keep thinking about, is I really would like to do a show like this where it's just like audience interaction, where I'm writing something and get their interaction. They can see the screen, they can see what I'm typing, they can have input on the characters or input on the story or whatever, and see how it comes together, and just see what the audience does to my process of writing a show, like just a 1-act play or something like that, and just see what comes out of that. Might be an interesting thing.
Yeah.
I respect that. I would hate to do that as a writer.
I think it would be really weird. I think it would be very interesting to do, though. I mean, I don't know. I get it, though, because in writing, I mean, you want to have, and it's that control. It's like, I have this idea, I have this thing, and I want to make it be the thing that I like best. And, you know, to have that control and to relinquish that control is a little bit tricky of an ego game that you have to play with yourself, I think.
Yeah.
So we do have. Go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
No. It's not.
I was just gonna say we do have. We've had some friends and
chats
join in the chat. If any of you guys have any questions, any performance or improv related questions for Margaret or the group at whole, please chime in. We're here to talk improv with you guys.
It's
but
like, Margaret, you look like an old person on the bus, like.
I'm like, when you have meetings with people who haven't really been on Zoom and then it's over, they're like, how do I?
Yeah, exactly.
I'm trying to read. I have to tilt it because it's weird. Okay, so
no, and it is because
there's a couple of questions on here though.
Sure. First, shout out to Welsh Fact, Golden Seekling, Katie Shea, Lauren Dupree, and Victor's got another question for you. In Real Companion, play that Margaret wrote, why don't we find out the main character owns the house until the second act? Spoiler alert.
No, I don't think it's a spoiler. I mean that piece needs a lot of work. So probably because the writer needed to do a better job of exposition, I guess would be the answer. It's he lives in the house with his mother, so she's kind of giving the idea of the play is that this reality star kid grown up has broken both his legs, and his mom hires a girl from the nursing school nearby to stay with him while he's recuperating and she's on a book tour. So, I would say plenty of revisions need to happen to that piece before it sees the light of day again, but it was a fun thing to write.
It's interesting writing something, releasing it into the world, and then coming back to it to go like, well, how do I refine this thing? You know what I mean?
It is.
It's an interesting process.
It's one of the things I'm not good at because I have the next idea and I just want to move on.
Same thing. I know.
Well,
absolutely something that I do.
I've been in a couple of your remounts, I believe.
Yeah.
Did you make any changes in Hamtown Races between the two versions of it, or did you kind of leave that show as is? I never saw the first one.
A little bit, not much for Hamtown Races, but if I were to do that play again, I would do a lot of revisions now. It's pretty liberal with the N-word, even though it's said from the inside, and my comfortability with that has probably changed. And also, I think our country's understanding and experience with race has completely changed even in the last few years. So
it's changing
today.
Like today, every single day, it's changing. Right. Modifying, Yeah.
But I did make a change because between the first time that we did it and the second, the main African American character Jimmy his had a slew obviously of bad experiences racially, but it was the first time was pre a lot of the police shootings. So that was included in the next one of like, hey, you say this, that happens, I say this, I get shot, like that kind of stuff.
Yeah, the public, the finally been exposed shootings.
Yeah, really the camera phone, right? Like
exactly.
It changed everything.
It's kind of done for the way that our police and society have, as the television did for Vietnam. You know what I mean? It was like finally got people to see what was actually happening this entire time.
They reference that a lot these days of, seeing it. And that, with COVID, we don't really we have visuals, but we don't have that image, right? That is, so.
Like the people on ventilator, yeah.
Right.
Welsh Fact wants to know how erotic the books are. Not very. I mean, I would, they talk about heat level in that genre, and I would
So
place it at around a 6. It's not a 10.
There's no Scobel units for.
No, there's nothing unusual or extended scenes. It's really just a matter of, like, for me, when you are writing a romantic story, it's all about creating that tension. You create tension, you create tension, you create tension, then it's like finally time to release it. It's like, and the bedroom door closes. It's like, no, come on. I don't want that.
Yeah.
So,
Caitlin Shea has a question. I'm still finding it interesting as a female improviser dealing with being a louder female or making strong choices. Sometimes I can see the shift with males. I do notice myself holding back because of that still. Any tricks you use personally to help with that?
I will say, just full disclosure, I have kind of an interesting position here because I feel like I'm in a position to be relatively fearless when it comes to playing with boys here. I think mostly because they know I give 0 Fs, and I've been around long enough I can school them if need be.
Yeah.
Just being honest.
Yeah.
But
absolutely.
what I would say is, don't hold yourself back, but where is that louder stuff coming from? Are you fighting to get the focus from guys who are being loud and that, or is it coming from character? If it's coming from character, don't hold back. Mm-hmm. If they can't realize that you're giving them a gift in your investment and engagement, then you need to be playing with other guys.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, another place that kind of thing can come from, I mean, I can't speak from experience, but fear can also make you kind of be a little bit louder preemptively in anticipation of being, of running into people that are walking over you before it even happens, too. That's another way that can happen.
Yeah. And frustration. I mean,
right.
Tony from the home team, when I was on his podcast, called me out because he and the folks on the podcast used to, I guess, watch for my reactions while I was on the back line, and I guess I make a lot of faces.
Really?
Straight up, and I love guys. I'm a guy's girl. I've always made friends with men pretty easily. That said, I do a whole lot of eye rolling about them too, and I think there are times, and Mike and I have had this conversation, I can't even tell you the amount of times, where, I'm like, God, we were about to do something real. We were about to do something deep and meaningful and connected, and y'all had to come out with your dick jokes or your, it's the fart contest, and everybody, I always make it about farts. It's time for the fart contest. Put your, your crying scene away,
Do you think that men generally, in a general sense, are more afraid of going to an emotional zone in improv?
I don't think it's fair to say all, for sure, because it kind of depends on how they prefer to play. But if there is somebody who is going to sacrifice the honesty and integrity of the scene for a bit, 9 times out of 10, it's going to be a guy.
Yeah, that's true.
In my opinion.
For sure.
Mm-hmm. And I think it's a fear move. It's a fear of showing vulnerability, or it's a boredom move of, God, we could be going faster and doing something sillier than this. We have to do this slow field stuff.
Some people aren't engaged by the emotional interplay of human beings as much as just the dick jokes, fart joke type of thing too. So it's like they don't look for the subtlety, when you first start eating food, everything tastes amazing, and then you start to branch out and get into more subtle flavors and interesting combinations and things like that. And it's like, if you're not used to that at all, then it's going to be boring to you.
I think there's an interesting thing with what Caitlin's talking about, like making loud or strong choices on stage. It's always easy for a man improviser to convey that he's playing a woman in this scene, but it's like every single time that a woman improviser comes up with like a gruff voice and like clearly trying to be a man here, they still are called like Mom or Aunt Carol or something like that.
Or
It's like,
made a bunch of butch comments about her.
Yeah, yeah.
She's got to be a softball player.
Yeah.
Hey, Christina. I don't get recognized from Second City Detroit very often, so that was pretty exciting. That's like a while ago. Victor wants to know if Alone with Friends is semi-autobiographical.
I was just going to say.
I'm sorry, I'm totally taking over your
No, this is
reading
is
of
fine.
that.
This is what this show is, yeah.
Alone with Friends is a play I wrote about a romance novelist who, when she comes up with names for her characters, then her characters become like these imaginary friends. And the writer is a shut-in who had a bad experience with a fan. And then it's about her sort of meeting this guy and trying to start dating and being like, there's other people here, but you can't see them, you know. It isn't autobiographical because I hadn't been writing romance at the time, but I had been reading a ton, and I think it was my justification for all of the books that I bought to say that they were research. But I just wanted to be in that realm. I think there's also a requirement that if you write a play or a book, at some point you have to write one about a writer.
Yeah.
Like yeah, you gotta do.
It was Mama Cass, Lauren. Hi, Lauren. Lauren Dupre wants to know, how was it to play Mama Cass? It was amazing. She was an amazing woman. When I was a teenager and people told me I looked like Mama Cass, I used to get like, oh, would I have to look like the fat girl in the group? And then I read about her and I was just so amazingly impressed. And the shit they used to make her do, like, with fat humor is disgusting, and she did it anyway because, you know, she was strong and wanted to be in the spotlight, you know.
Yeah.
It's a major trailblazer.
Pretty incredible and pretty different performer from a lot of other performers in the world. And I mean, I really, really value people that are not playing into the normal view of here's how you have to look to be successful in society, like that kind of bullshit. When people can become something despite that incredible pressure that we have to conform to the normal narrative and standards of the famous society, world, whatever, and people can get beyond that despite things. That's really amazing and really
well. And if you think about it, like in our social behaviors today, like you wouldn't walk up to somebody fat and be like, wow, you really, you know, like saying something really overt, like you are fat and don't eat so much, you know.
I could not imagine doing that, honestly.
Well, you know, but earlier in my life, and definitely reading like about her life, the things that people would say to her. I mean, you know, there weren't a lot of 300-pound women in the 60s, like the early 60s, right? Yeah. So people were empowered to say all kinds of stuff, you know. Yeah, and then the tragedy of like she was in love with Denny Doherty, and they were super close. And if she'd been thin, they would have been a couple. But because of the way society was at the time, it was just like, no, I'm going to sleep with Michelle.
Right.
I don't care if she's married to John, you know.
Yeah. God.
Michelle didn't marry her, so.
This is all new for me. I don't know anything about the mamas or the papas.
I'm telling you, it's like equivalent drama to what's the Fleetwood Mac? Like it was
really?
that sorted. Yeah.
Okay, maybe
John Phillips married to Michelle Phillips, right? Mama Cass or Cass Elliot in love with Denny, who's the other guy in the group, but Denny's sleeping with Michelle.
Okay.
As was Dennis Hopper in like half of LA, so. John Phillips cared.
It's crazy how much drama was in that group, and I never knew that. But I have to say that stage reading was fantastic. I love that play, Margaret. It's really good.
Thanks, buddy.
Yeah.
Thanks. I started a YouTube page. It says my camera's off.
Yeah, you froze for a second. Don't worry, you don't look horrible, but you look a little weird. Oh, there you go. You're coming back through Skype, I think.
I'm trying.
Your camera. Turn it off and on again.
That's what I did. It's saying choose background effect. I don't want that. I just want a camera, y'all.
Adrian's asking, what have you been doing? What have we been doing to combat cabin fever? A lot of this, Adrian.
Yeah.
Personally, I've been doing a lot of streaming. I'm finding a lot of social interaction in video games nowadays. Talking to people through and playing video. It's like basically I just get to have a conversation and then I'm playing a video game on top of it. So it's kind of cool to be able to connect with people in that way, and it's a lot more social than just sitting there staring at a wall and talking on the phone.
I wish
like that.
I wish I was better at video games, because every time I hop in one of those streams with Darren or whatever, I'm like inarguably the worst person at the game.
Well, the thing is, though, you got to really make sure you don't. I mean, but this is interesting. This is really interesting right here, because this is this goes back to what we were talking about at the beginning of the show. And in this, it's something that's so low stakes. Being good at video games. Like, who fucking cares? You come up to somebody on the street, it's like, I'm really fucking good at Fortnite. And like, who cares? Who fucking cares? But also, would you go up to somebody on the street and be like, yeah, I'm really fucking good at improv, so, that's what I do.
Honestly.
Right? It's kind of the same thing, right? It's kind of the same thing. Being concerned with how good you are at a thing is really not helpful in any way to enjoying the thing.
Totally. It's just like it's funny because like Call of Duty. I play Call of Duty with Darren, and it's like you're in a group of like 5 people, and they're all like, "Okay, we're gonna parachute down to this street," and they're like, "Fuck, Andy, why are you all the way across town?" And like I'm actively making it harder for them to be good at it. So,
honestly, I was in that game, Andy, and I found your presence to be delightful.
Okay, good.
I am not ever concerned with winning the game or beating other people. My biggest concern is to have as much fun as I can possibly have. And that generally gets me in trouble in those games that people take too seriously, because then I get too I just like to have fun.
Yeah.
Margaret, if your camera is still giving you trouble, I will grab a really nice picture of you from the internet and make that your.
Well, it's saying the camera isn't working all of a sudden, which is weird because it was working that whole time.
That is weird.
Yeah,
it was working, and you didn't change anything, right?
No, it just stopped.
Have you been?
Your voice fine, so.
Yeah.
Do you have an answer for Adrian? What have you been doing at home to take care of cabin fever?
I've definitely been doing a bit of writing. I think the biggest challenge is, we've got a 6-year-old kid, so we've had to do a lot of schooling, but also you have to keep him occupied. So in the beginning, he and I were making these little plays every day.
Yeah, those were real fun.
Yeah,
it was fun. I feel bad we stopped, but
I think things come and go. It's
Well, that was the pressuring yourself thing, right? It started to become really stressful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it would be basically like he would come up with the idea, and then I would help him beat it out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then he would we would run through it once and then record it.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, it's been a little nice. Anna and I got married in July, and we're both so busy that this has been a chance to slow down and spend more time together than we ever have. So, and that way, it's been there's been some good,
It's true. It's very interesting in that regard that we are all spending so much time with our people in our houses that we live with, that we maybe have had a lot of experience just being out and what are you doing for dinner, and you're not even home until midnight or whatever is going on in your lives. We all have busy lives and different things going on, and it's really interesting to actually get this much time that we are getting to experience just each other in our spaces. I mean, I've been well, one, we've been, talking about all kinds of relationship stuff and like working on just being happier as people in general. We've been doing a lot of like, you know what, I think we need new shelving for this room, and like, we need to reorganize this thing and do all that kind of stuff. And we've been like really getting into fine-tuning all that stuff, because what else is there to do but work on, yourselves and your house and your things. And to me, that's the kind of thing that's like really the biggest cabin fever fighter for me so far is that, I think,
Yeah, I was saying to my husband just today that, we've started to get a lot of things done or experience time together in ways that we haven't. And, I'm like, why am I not exhausted when I make dinner? Oh, because I'm getting enough sleep and I'm not spending an hour and a half on the road being pissed off at everyone,
Yeah. Right? Yeah.
I checked the settings. I would have to restart my computer to get that camera going. So
we're almost at the end of
we
the
only
show.
have 5 minutes
there's
anyway.
Now a picture of you up there anyway, so.
It's a nice one.
You taught a class at the Ant pretty recently. It was focused on like character and relationship building. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything you've been thinking about improv recently, or maybe before the pandemic that you were kind of focused on that you'd be interested in having a quick discussion about?
Yeah, I mean, I think for years my focus has really been on, connection, and for me, and sometimes I feel a little selfish because I'll say this to the team and be like, you just have to play the way I want you to. But for me, it has to be a very trusty sort of place where we, it's kind of like everything is a sex analogy, but like you have to get undressed before you have sex, right? But I need to feel comfortable around you enough to get undressed. Right. So that initial first bit is we're going to throw stuff out to each other, and it's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to not have any ideas. It's okay to just be in the space together and connect. Because I feel like then what happens in the time after that is when you really like start snowball downhill, and it takes its own momentum. But that's why I get, and those moments can sometimes be a little long, and that's when fart contest wants to come in from the back line, and that's when I get cantankerous. But overall, to me, I feel like improvisers panic and don't trust themselves enough to go to that undressing place all the way. And I feel like it's like when you're driving somewhere and you turn too soon is how you always get lost. Right?
This was
a great way to put it. Yeah.
That specific idea was kind of the focus of the last several farm team rehearsals before all of this happened.
Oh, nice.
That people don't trust themselves on stage to follow what they've already created, and they're constantly searching for something to make the scene about.
It's already there.
It's already there. Yeah. You just have to listen for it and be engaged in what's happening.
That's why that workshop we did with the improv project staff with Dave Rosowski was a huge eye-opener to me, because it was a new way of framing a lot of things that I felt. It also totally screwed my brain for what improv is.
That's what I love about getting instruction from different people is fantastic like that.
Yeah. And it's already there, so stop introducing new shit that we don't need.
Yep. Yeah,
exactly.
Agreed. I mean, everything there is already there. And that is something that we have been really pushing on with our rehearsals before this all went just haywire.
It so quickly becomes all right, here's these two people. They're in a relationship. This one cheated on this one. Well, this one's also been cheating, and this one wants to move out. And it's
I have a pet rooster. Exactly.
Slow.
But think about the movies you've seen or the books that you've read when they get that convoluted with the plot. Yeah. You're so mad at the person who wrote it. God, you don't need it.
Right, you really don't. The simplicity is so much more interesting.
Yeah.
And exploring the singularity of that.
Also, you're disrespecting your own idea because you're saying it needs more.
Right.
before you even gave it a chance.
Mm-hmm. Well, I know that, I really owe a lot to you, Margaret, and a lot to the way that you, your performance and your style and your understanding of human relationships. And you pushed me to be a better performer in all regards with the home team and doing stuff at the end.
Yeah. This whole community owes a ton to you. You've been
finally somebody said it.
Yeah.
I told him not to
waiting for this
the
day
show,
for
and he did
so
anyway.
long. I'm glad my camera's off because I'm kind of patting myself on the back.
Oh, I was going to say, is your mascara running because you're a crying woman?
Because I super wear mascara, especially during a pandemic.
Yeah.
One of my former students did a post the other day that I was so behind, and it was like, I look at women wearing makeup now, and I think they're clowns.
Yeah, right?
Like, why would you bother?
Yeah. I've successfully put deodorant on 3 times during the pandemic, so I'm right there.
I get dressed every day, and I put on deodorant.
Yeah.
Still
dressed in jeans.
I don't necessarily do either of those things every day, so it's touch and go with me.
Yeah.
I have to model behavior for a young person.
That is true.
Yeah.
That is true. All right. Well, that's all the time that we have for today. Thank you, everyone, for chiming in on our chat today. Lauren Dupree, Von Wenk, known as Victor, Adrian, Christina, Caitlin Shea. Thank you guys all for joining in and chatting and joining us in the chat and asking some interesting questions.
We will be
Mondays too, Caitlin Shea.
I know, I miss you, Caitlin.
Yes.
But thank you so much, Margaret, for coming on the show today.
Yes.
Andy?
Thanks, guys. Sorry, I have new equipment and don't know how to use it.
Oh no, yeah, we'll be back next Saturday at 5 p.m. Our guest will be Farm Team member Kate Holmes.
Yes.
Woo-hoo.
It will. And come on, watch us then and get your name in the hat. We may have you on the show next the week after. So, thanks everybody. Have a great rest of your beautiful.
I'm waving for no reason.
Oh, now I have to find a picture of you waving. God damn.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good night, everybody.